Welcome to the ProLife Team podcast. I'm here with Cristina, and we're going to be sharing some ideas about how she has weaved in her pro-life passion right into her work, her daily work life, and made it a part of her company's marketing effort, which has then brought all sorts of interesting tangents or things that are interesting to think about. So Cristina, tell me, what inspired you, before we get into what you did, what inspired you to weave in a pro-life idea into your company?
Well, Jacob, thank you for having me first in your podcast. My name is Cristina Valencia, and I'm a real estate broker. So I think that for better clarify what inspired me, we should start by saying, why is it that I'm in real estate, right? I got
Okay.
into real estate because I am a single mom, right? So when you face, in this case, an unplanned pregnancy, back at the day, my son just turned 20 years old, I really needed to find a way to produce income to be able to sustain him and me working from home. You know how it is in the US. It's very difficult when you're an immigrant, you don't have family, you don't have friends, just to be able to put your son or daughter in daycare, to go to work, it was pretty much not feasible. So I started to become a real estate agent back in 2004 because it gave me the flexibility. I could be with my son at home, work, and sustain ourselves.
Okay.
And that's how it all started. And after that, a couple of years later, I fell again into an unplanned pregnancy. The problem is that at that time, it was a very bad situation for me. Income was not there. I still had no family, no friends. As a matter of fact, I was living pretty much under poverty. And in this case, my boyfriend at the time did not want this baby. So I was planning, I was facing the fact of being a single mom of two with no income, right? So I fell into all of these statistics of, a woman. A lot of the women who seek an abortion is because they don't have the support. They don't have the family support, the friend support, or the financial support, or of course the boyfriend support. So I fit in all these statistics. And I did what, has been in a way my biggest regret, but my biggest blessing, which is to take the life of my own daughter in an abortion clinic, right? And that was the most traumatic, painful, horrifying experience that I've ever had. Because I was one of the very few women, one in of 1,000 that wake up in the middle of the procedure. So I got to see it all, right? And then I fall back into other statistic, which is very important for people to know, is that abortion is the number one cause of suicide in women worldwide because of the post-traumatic stress disorder that a woman is going to face after an abortion. So again, that was my case. I intended to take my own life after that abortion. That was back in the year 2003.
Wow.
It was just because of the grace of God that I'm here. Of course, he didn't want me, right, to be gone at that time. And when I come back, of course, you're like so confused because you think you're dead. And then all of a sudden you're alive, right? And God tells me, well, I have a plan for you. At that time, I did not know God the way that I know him. You have a purpose in life, and your daughter has a purpose in life. Right? So we create this foundation, the Single Moms Foundation, named after my son, Sebastian. And everything changed for me. After I accepted God's challenge for my life, my real estate business started booming. And, I started growing and I was, became really successful, but I had not dealt with the pain and the trauma of the abortion. I was not talking about my daughter. I was focused on my son. And then years later, year 2008, I meet Martha Avila, president and founder of Heartbeat of Miami. Because, I was advocating for single moms, and then I had a radio show at that time also. And then I interviewed Martha and we talked about abortion. And after that show, she said, Cristina, you need to deal with it. You need to go and heal, right? So I go through the process of abortion recovery. And that's when God downloads this business plan in my head saying, you're going to use your real estate business to help and equip women like you so they can be, self-employed and be able to take care of their children, help each other, because, they can actually live as roommates and help each other out, and start building this idea of a center that will have an integrated help for them, emotional, spiritual, and of course, work-related help. And I started developing this idea, and we started doing seminars and empowering women and all that and so forth. And I was, of course, becoming a very big donor with the real estate office to Harvey of Miami, because that was my source of income, saying, I have this source of income for something bigger than me, which is not only to sustain yourself, but to keep on saving lives. But I was not letting the public know, I was not letting anybody know that that was the idea. So during 2020, during the pandemic, everything collapses, as everybody knows, the world goes crazy. I take a break on how to restructure my business. And I was having a conversation with my business coach, my real estate business coach. And then for some reason, I tell him, listen, I cannot meet with you so day because I have a board meeting. And I let him know about the board meeting. Now I am part of the board of directors of Harvey of Miami. And I tell him what we do in Miami. And I tell him all the stats, right? Because a lot of people don't even know what the statistics are in our nation, which for me is very alarming.
Mm-hmm.
People do not know that abortion is the #1 cause of death worldwide, between 65 to 70 million abortions per year worldwide. Deaths altogether are not even 60 million per year, including heart disease, strokes, accidents, all that and so forth. So it's so drastic, the difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people don't take abortion in consideration of deaths. They just look at, okay, sure, what's the #1 cause of death in the world? Heart disease. With how many million? You know what I'm saying? They don't know. They don't know that it's not even, heart disease is 9 million deaths a year. 9 worldwide. Abortion, 65 to 73. Right? And not only that, but they don't know that in the US, we have 1.5 to 2 million abortions per year. And they don't know that Miami is the #1 county per capita. So I was telling all these things to him, and he was like, what? Miami is the #1 per capita? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, you have something in your hands that is so precious. Because the reason why you're so passionate about your real estate firm is because you're passionate about saving lives. That's the ultimate goal for you. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly right. At the end of the day, it's like how much money I can make with real estate equals how many lives I can save. So then he goes, well, means that you're saving, 1 life per closing, or 1 closing at a time. And I said, yes, that's it, saving a life, 1 closing at a time.
Oh, awesome.
And that's when this movement started, because he said, well, you got to let your customers know. Why don't you let them know that they are part of this amazing movement? Because it's because, with their help, you're saving the lives of these babies. So we created our own contracts. We redid all our contracts, obviously, with legal advice. In our real estate contracts, we have a clause letting the client know, by the way, you're going to get the best service in real estate. We're going to do everything that we need to do for you in real estate, but you're going to be helping us save a life, because we're going to be donating on your behalf to this organization. And it's amazing to see the reaction of the clients. It's truly amazing.
So what have the reactions been like? Because some of your clients obviously are not pro-life, and some are neutral, and some are maybe pro-life but never really put much into it yet, or there's just a wide variety of clients to communicate with. So what kind of reactions have you heard from different types of clients?
We've had incredible reactions as people crying as they sign the contract because they had no idea. And that's the first reaction that they say, I had no idea that Miami was #1 in the nation. I had no idea that it will take COVID 18 years to reach the amount of deaths that we have in abortions per year, because that's the correlation that I give them.
Okay.
It will take 18 years for COVID to match 1 year of abortions. So when people understand this facts, that this like real data, I ask them, do you know how many people die of a stroke, which is the number 2 cause of death worldwide? They have no idea. It's only 6 million. 6 million a year die because they had a stroke. 1.3 million die because they had a car accident or they were facing an accident. Right? So when you tell them 6 million versus 73 million, they cannot believe it.
Yeah.
They cannot believe it when we tell them Miami-Dade County is not only #1 per capita in the nation, but in Miami-Dade and in Florida, you can have an abortion until the baby is 9 months. People don't know that either. The lack of information, they're like, what? That's impossible. Well, that's the law. That's what we're facing. A woman can go and have an abortion all the way to 9 months. The only difference is the birth canal, which is 8 inches. If the baby is before the birth canal, it's called an abortion. Nothing happens to the mom or to the doctor. It's not a homicide. But if the baby travels 8 inches, the baby's born, you can't kill the baby after the baby's born. So when we start having this conversation with them, we create this awareness that they didn't know. So people cry. People cry when we tell them that it's the #1 cause of suicide in women. 65% of women that have had an abortion will in some way think about committing suicide. Actually, between 30 and 35 are the ones who attempt to commit suicide. So just do the math. If it's 70 million are having an abortion per year, 30% of that is how much? 21 million women will attempt suicide this year because of an abortion.
Oh my goodness. That again is multiple times larger than the stroke numbers and those other numbers.
Or heart disease, which is 9 million. So it's just facts. However, women have less chances of dying because, they're not as violent as men. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Suicide. But 30 to 35 will attempt. So the numbers are so huge that you create this awareness and, they cry, they sign it with no problem. They feel very grateful that we have been able to allow them to know and to participate. Because as a matter of fact, they're going to receive a thank you card. Once the transaction is closed, Martha is going to send them a thank you card with one of our babies, letting them know, listen, by the way, we did receive the donation on your name. Here's our thank you card. And we also send them the little feet, our pin, which is the little tiny feet of a 10-week baby. Okay. So they know that that's going on.
Wow. So that's just, so your heart for this work is just so deep and beautiful. And it's really beautiful to hear that story. So have you, what happens when, what happens when someone may not agree with the pro-life stance? What does that look like when they're looking at a real estate contract that says this? Like, is this, what kind of reactions, or how do they respond sometimes?
Those are the best reactions.
Okay.
Because, God really has a great sense of humor. I do truly believe that, right? So if you're, of course, they're exposed to all our services, they get to hear what we're going to do for them as professionals, as consultants, right? So they have no problem signing the contract, letting us represent them as sellers or as buyers or as investors. When they're going to get to sign the contract and we get to that clause, they're like, really? And they're like, I'm like, yeah. It's like, well, I'm pro-choice. And I'm like, well, great. Thank you. You just helped me save a life. That's my reaction. Great. I mean, you're pro-choice. Well, thank you. You just helped me save a life. because, they're not giving their money. I am giving part of my commission on their behalf. So a pro-choice person will get a thank you card from a pro-life organization, say, thank you, you just helped me save a life. So they start thinking about it, and they ask questions. Oh, but what happens if the woman, gets raped?
Yeah.
So then again, I go back to the statistics. Tell them, do you know the percentage of women that actually seek an abortion because they have faced rape? Of course, they have no idea. Oh, it's gonna be more than half, blah, 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 No, it's 1%, less than 1%. So the other 99% of women are seeking an abortion just because they do not have help. Not because they want to, it's because they're being forced of the resources, or, what is my family going to say? I'm a teenager, I'm in the middle of the school year, who's going to help me with a baby? Whatever reason. And the other 1% is the one, because that's the other defense that the pro-choice movement has. What if the woman's life is in danger? Right? Which is also less than 1%. And if you're, talking to a believer, you're like saying, well, who's in control here? The only one who's in control of your life is actually God. So you don't really know if that's going to happen or not. So what choice do you want to make? Right? So these people who are pro-choice and they don't even know why they're pro-choice. So we also have the opportunity to explain to them what really pro-choice is. Pro-choice is actually giving the woman an option. Abortion is one of the options, but what if there's another alternative like Heartbeat of Miami, where she can go, have all the services for free, has everything for the baby for free? She might be willing to take that choice. What about, putting that baby in adoption, which is another blessing, which is the way that, we also confront a lot of people who have been raped. Okay, it might be difficult for you to keep this baby, whatever, but this baby can be a blessing to someone who has been praying for a baby for years that cannot have a baby. So instead of being a double trauma, because of course, by any excuse, we're gonna, excuse a rape, that's horrible, it's terrific. It's a huge trauma for the woman. But that already happened. That already took place. So if you want to go ahead and then have an abortion on top of that, you're going to have to be dealing and recovering for two traumas, the rape and the abortion. Because it's just facts, we just said it, 65% of the women will be suicidal after an abortion. It's a huge number. And worst case, and also it's even worse because 90% of them do not know where to go to seek for help. They have no idea where to go, which is, of course, part of the services that we provide. Why don't they look for help? Because they feel all this shame and this guilt. And not even in churches, you're kind of like allowed to talk about that.
Yeah.
So it's very sad. And when we tell the pro-choice persons or clients, it's like, listen, this could be your daughter, this could be your niece, this could be your grandchild. You don't know who's going to be next in the list, right? At the end of the day, let that person have more options than going through. Because if she decides to have an abortion because it's her choice, she better have an action plan of what she's going to do after to recover from that. Because she's going to need that action plan.
Yeah, that's a good point. Every time someone looks at, every time someone needs help or they're looking at getting an abortion, they're essentially someone in your community, a neighbor at some level, someone who lives in the same county at least. And it's, yeah. And then, so I really enjoy your heart for like weaving this into your daily business practice. And it's interesting how you didn't just, start off on day one with this whole picture. It's sort of like, it's almost like a series of dominoes that one knocked over at a time, going towards this current posture of not just giving, but now also like being, proclaiming like the truth in this work or the beauty in this work. And letting people be a part of it, whether they want to or whether they want to, I guess. But it sounds like they always sort of want to, but they didn't realize they wanted to. But sometimes, yeah, some of them go into it knowing, they're grateful for it, and then some of them go into it realizing through this conversation with you how they're now part of being a hero, even though they didn't really think they were on that team.
Amazing, because we've taken it, to a next level, which is actually my goal for 2021, is to have the same amount of businesses in the real estate industry that will want to be a part of this movement. Because there's 38 abortion clinics registered in Miami-Dade County, registered. So my goal every time that I present this movement to anybody who is in the real estate industry, so of course it's not mine. I want all the brokers to be able to, to implement this in their offices, or the lenders or the title companies, right? So our idea is to have at least 38 businesses that are willing to implement the same.
Oh, wow.
So we already have another real estate broker that joined. We have a title firm that joined. We have a lender that joined, the movement, which because at the end of the day, it does not hurt you. And, we take it to the next level, which is every single Thursday, we have a posting, in our social media that has to do with abortion and with what we're doing for the community. So we let our clients know. It's in our newsletter. We have once a month newsletters, and we feature one of the babies that we just saved in the back cover of the newsletter. And pretty much in each Thursday, we're letting them know about this stats, saying, listen, this is what's going on. And with your transaction with us, you're going to be helping us, saving one more life. Saving a life is priceless. So as you said, it does not hurt whoever wants to do business with you. I mean, if you're going to choose a real estate agent or broker, might as well choose one that is doing something for the community. We're doing something for something bigger than ourselves, something that could live forever as a legacy, as a movement. So
Wow.
they're very happy with that. And we get to see comments about, the postings on Thursdays. We're going to be actually in our videos. We also say, by the way, if you do business with us, you're going to be contributing as saving a life. No, I mean, I don't think that anybody will get mad if you tell them, hey, you just saved a life. I mean, you're like a hero, as you said it. When doctors are there in the hospital and they save somebody from COVID or from an accident, how are they seen? When you go and rescue somebody that has been in an accident, you're seen as a hero. Whoever is going to be willing to participate in this movement, whether it's completely directed, and want to become a monthly donor, because now we have a lot of clients that have joined, that have actually gone to the page and saying, it's not enough only by you donating on my behalf. I want to be donating.
Oh.
So they are becoming now partners with us. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, Jacob, saving a life is priceless. You cannot put a dollar amount to a life.
Yeah.
So whatever you donate, and of course, all my staff has to be a part of the movement. If somebody wants to work with us, they have to sign, it's in their contract and in their manual, that they have to be monthly donors of Heartbeat of Miami. And they agree, they have to join, because this is all one vision, and it's not that we don't love and that we don't care about the people who are pro-choice. Great. As I said, we have clients that are pro-choice, and I said, well, great, you just helped me save the life, because it's my money going out on your behalf, right? And our realtors are also, some of them have visited the clinics. And we invite our clients, when we invite everybody who wants to be a part of this movement, to just come and see it for your own. A completely different idea when you're there and you see the miracle that happens. Because remember, 92% of women that go to our clinics are abortion minded. That's what they're thinking, that they're going to go and seek for an abortion. So you see,
you said there was 36 abortion clinics in the county. Is that what you said, or 38?
38 registered, besides the ones that are not registered. That there's a lot of underground.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then I've heard that, Miami is the per capita is the number one, like, there's more abortions take place there than anywhere else per capita. But just thinking about 38 registered clinics, abortion clinics in a single county, that's just a very large number.
Yes.
How many people are in the county? Like, how many million are?
I have no idea, to tell you the truth. I should know that. I have no idea how many
I can
people.
look that up.
Yes, we can Google it, right?
Is it Miami County or is it something else?
Miami-Dade County. Yes.
Miami.
And our 4 clinics are in Miami-Dade County, and I mean, I cannot even.
So 2.7 million. So there's 38 clinics. So that's just a lot. I mean, I'm most counties that I interact with, I guess I don't really necessarily know how many are registered, but it feels like there's a lot less than that. Like, that feels like a very high number to me.
Yeah, that's why we're number 1 in the nation.
Yeah.
Per capita, and nothing to be proud of. That's what I tell my clients and my staff. The fact that Miami is number 1 in abortions per capita is nothing that we should feel proud of.
But it's interesting that this beautiful idea of taking, a passion for saving lives in the most, the darkest of, the darkest area when it comes to, like, all these abortions taking place, this brilliant light in response of trying to, generate revenue to support pregnancy clinic work when it comes to paying for medical, for marketing, for the day-to-day operations in order to compete in this very competitive space against 38 abortion clinics plus.
Yes.
Yeah, so it just seems like, and I don't know if any other, I mean, I probably shouldn't say this, but I would expect there's other businesses that have done something similar, but I don't know their story and I haven't come across them yet. But I'm sure there's lots and lots that have not done this idea, and that this would be really good for more people to hear and to think, I could do this. Like, this is reasonable. This is helpful. This is good for the community. This is a way to raise money and as well as posture a group as being, for the community, like, being the salt, being the light. Like, this is a way of doing that.
This is exactly the way of doing it. And as we said, a lot of people are already donating. See what I'm saying? A lot of people are already donating to a worthy cause, I mean, and look at it, the big companies, all the big companies, Amazon, McDonald's, whatever it is, they tell you, portion of our income gets to be donated to charity. It's natural, it's normal. People like that. People like to know what you're doing with your money. But the problem is that you have really no idea, if they're doing it, So in this case, that's why, I presented this idea to our board of directors and of course to Martha. And I said, listen, we really need to make this legit. So we're going to create thank you cards, and Martha is going to personally sign them. And we're going to be mailing to every single one of our customers saying, listen, by the way, here it is. We did receive the money on your behalf. So thank you. And we extend that to everybody in the transaction, because at the end of the day, everybody was part of it, saving a life. It's not only my client. If I say like that, my client is the buyer, well, the seller is also part of it. So we also sent one to the seller. So now we know somebody that had no idea about our contract receiving a thank you card. And we send it to the other agent, because the agent was also part of it.
So how have the the sellers or the other party, and how have the other agents responded to being a part of this? Like, what's their response been like?
Well, to the seller, the only way that I have, or to the other party, is by mail. So I have no idea if they have actually called Martha or Google.
Oh, okay.
Because I have no direct access to them, but I mail them the card. And some agents actually have wanted to come and work with me. Like saying, listen, I love you. This is awesome. I want to know more about what you do. As a matter of fact, the other day I was in a conference, and I was speaking about abortion and all that. And a lady that was attending the conference happened to be a real estate agent. So I explained to them this little movement that we have. And then after the conference ended, she approached me And she said, listen, I want to work with you. I'm pro-life and I'm in the different brokerages, and I just want to change and put my license with you.
That makes a lot of sense because I've my company, iRapture.com, we work on a lot of pregnancy center websites, and everyone on my team loves the heart of the company, like of working on these pro-life, life-minded pregnancy clinic websites. Essentially, we're like the support team working to support the heroes on the front lines. Like that's how we sort of feel. And I feel like you have found a way to turn a real estate agency or company into that same kind of like cultural, essentially you've made like the atmosphere similar to that, where you're, you now people that are life minded will want to join the team because you've made it part of like the character or part of the atmosphere of working there. And so people who are passionate about life, by working there, it's not just about the money, it's also about spending your time in a way that just feels like you're being a blessing to someone else that you want to bless. And now you're able to do that not just like in after hours, but now you can do it as part of the 9 to 5. And so it's sort of like this, it's like bringing those passions into the workday hours in order to get more enjoyment out of the time and hours spent. And I think that's just so creative. And then the fact that you've brought in like the other partnering companies, like the sellers and the age, the other, the title company and these other parts of the real estate world, that just speaks to that vision being a lot bigger than something small. Like that speaks to a big vision, and also the vision of having 38 to compete with the 38 that are already, on the opposing side
Yes.
of
Right.
this worldview. That's awesome. And I just hope so. This podcast, this video audio podcast, is going to be sent out to executive directors, to the clients and people that I have their email address for, and or who sign up for this on Spotify. And essentially they each have a whole little world of their own supporters. Like they each have their own circle of supporters. I shouldn't say little, but they each have their own world or circle of supporters. And each one of the supporters, some of the supporters would be essentially in a really good position to adopt a really cool idea like this in order to exercise their belief, their faith, their passion, their desire to, to answer God's call to do what God's calling them to do, which might be this. And so I think that it's just like a really good example that someone else could springboard off of, or they could benchmark in order to see, how could this work with a construction company? How could this work with my pizza company? How could this work with, whatever it happens to be? Because honestly, it doesn't really matter. As long as you're selling something, you have, a company that is selling something could include this as part of their messaging, saying, for every widget sold, we're giving a percentage to the pro-life pregnancy clinic in our county, supporting women and men experiencing an undesired, unplanned pregnancy, and they, helping them feel less overwhelmed and more like they can actually, keep going without feeling overwhelmed, trying to lower their anxiety and just giving them a safe place to talk. Because life is hard sometimes.
And as you said, it could be applied to any industry, to any business, because either
Yeah.
it's a portion of your income, a portion of our income will be donated on your behalf to XYZ, in this case, Heartbeat of Miami organization. Is very simple to do it, and the more people that know, that's my goal, that's my will, to everybody that gets to hear this, like, how is it that I can implement this, and make it legit. And sometimes just for you to create awareness, just for you by saying this is what we
Yeah.
do, it's a huge impact in the community.
Especially when
Because
you're talking to people who, you know, would label themselves maybe as pro-choice before you talk to them, for them to be aware that, you know, that this group is loving and caring. I think that you're giving the Heartbeat of Miami Pregnancy Clinic a voice in places where it needs to be voiced, like it's in where it hasn't been voiced before. And so that
I have,
awareness is huge. And also just like having a friendly voice promoting it in a positive way. Like before Google took over on the intake forms of like, how'd you hear about, before Google took over the answers of all questions, word of mouth has been like there for decades. And word of mouth is still number 2 currently on in that posture, you know, how, you know, for answering questions. And so, and word of mouth is super powerful. And so essentially what you're like a word of mouth seed generator by essentially like creating new places where word of mouth can then spread from, by essentially planting seeds where it was, you know, that soil hasn't been used before, possibly in a long time. And by trying to plant seeds in places where then it can then word of mouth can be repeated in new spaces. That's really cool.
right.
Um,
Whether they agree or not, at least now they're aware.
and even if they do agree, often most, you know, most people who are followers of Jesus aren't really, they're not necessarily engaged in the pro-life world, and they need
Yeah.
seeds planted in them as well of how important this is, and how we need them to be, for them to be a part of our team, and we need more people. And so even if someone happened to be life-minded and they end up going through this with you, they're essentially seeing how they're seeing your passion and excitement. I think then that will encourage them to up their excitement and passion. And I think that's a good thing.
We did meet with the city of Doral where we're at with the mayor, and he's a pro-life. You know, he's very pro-life, and most of his staff in the city are. And he was very touched. As a matter of fact, he's one of our advocates for the movement. You know, I mean, I didn't even know about this, and I run into people all the time here in downtown Doral, and one of them just got to me and was like, "Listen, I want to know about more about what you're doing because Mayor Bermudez told me about your movement." So, I mean, how great would that be that this city will be the first, pro-life city in Miami-Dade County, where we're at can actually say, Doral is a pro-life city because this is what we do. And in real estate, that's what I was also telling my colleagues. When you're in real estate, you're the go-to person. You know what I'm saying? You have a client and the client moves and they're going to tell you, hey, do you know where is it that I can go and get my hair done or my dry cleaning or what's the best, supermarket in town, the best restaurant? You're like the go-to person. So we're like, giving voice to the city, and we're not saying, listen, by the way, you're helping us, change these facts about the city.
Mm.
And, when we just started the movement, as I said, it was during COVID, everybody was talking about, oh, let's flatten the curve, of COVID. It's
Hmm.
like saying, I mean, the curve of COVID, it's nothing. Let's flatten this curve. You want to help and do something? Of
Yeah.
course, everybody's helping about COVID, but it has
Yeah.
no
Cool.
no
Yeah.
point.
Essentially, abortion's like the elephant in the room that no one's paying attention to, or the, it's just, so much larger. Or I guess for COVID, it'd be 18 times bigger per year.
Exactly. I mean, it's 3.5 million people have passed away because of COVID since,
And that's
the
terrible, but it's nothing when it comes to the numbers, it's much smaller than the number of people who have been destroyed by abortion. And abortion wasn't like a plague, being spread through people breathing. It was based on marketing, based on essentially people feeling like they had no choice, based on, a variety of essentially very oppressive marketing and oppressive decisions, and people just not having kindness poured out on them with care and encouragement. I mean, I think the number one tool that a pregnancy clinic uses to encourage someone to go from being like, I need to get an abortion, to I think I can be a parent, is having someone, having that person across the in that same room, that counseling room, having that person show care, build rapport, build up trust, and then provide, essentially free and confidential services, and provide support and encouragement. And a big part of that is a listening ear, and essentially good body language, saying that I'm listening to you, and I see you, I know this is hard. And it's just sort of like building community and building relationship. And but that's the key. Like, so when someone donates to a pregnancy clinic, they're essentially helping support this relationship building tool, this group that's essentially improving improving the community one person at a time.
Yes.
um
And because we do get to share with them about who God is and how much, God loves them. Because as I said, most of them feel unloved, you know, abandoned. That's the truth.
yeah.
It is also faith that helps you say, okay, I can do this. I'm going to have the support from our staff, which is just wonderful. And when they come back with a baby, it's just it is I get so emotional every time that I think about that, because as I said, when I had to face my abortion, Heartbeat of Miami did not exist. I had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Right? If I would have been in the position of a Martha Avila or our staff being there for me, my story would have been different, right? So when I am there in the clinics, or when we get reports of how many babies we have saved a month, or I hold one of those babies in my
Mm,
arms, I'm like saying, this, it's priceless. It is priceless to know how God can transform such a huge pain and trauma into something so beautiful. And
yeah.
seeing myself in all these women, in all these young women, and then when I get to speak to them, I was like, listen, I was there, I was in your shoes, so I can talk on experience as of how it is to be a single mom, because, I've been a single mom for 20 years. My son just turned 20, my firstborn, and to let them know about the provision of God, because it was Him who transformed my life, from poverty to owning a real estate firm with 45 agents working with us at the moment. It's only God. If He can do it for me, He can do it for anybody. You
Yeah.
know, that's also encouraging them, for them to see that.
I feel like you're helping spread the truth about, that they can do it, and that you're spreading the truth about the good that a pregnancy clinic does in a community, like introducing people to Jesus, helping them build, hope and courage, and eventually getting support for making decisions that are going to enjoy for 10 plus years, more so than like the short term.
Absolutely.
And so yesterday at my church, we were talking about the book of Micah, and it has some false prophet piece chapter in there about how false prophets would just tell someone what they want to hear and not tell them the truth. Like, there are false prophets that would talk to the king, and pretty much they would just tell the king what they wanted to hear. I was wondering in the back of my mind, like, when people are promoting Planned Parenthood or these other options, they're just trying to tell someone what they want to hear in the moment, more so than what they need to hear for, like, decades or for lifetimes. And so I feel like Planned Parenthood is full of, the Planned Parenthood group is full of what could be classified as like a false prophet of sort. And when someone who tells someone what they need to hear that they're going to enjoy for not just decades but for generations, I think that's like the opposite of like a truth teller, or someone who's there for them out of love, like through Jesus's love. And I don't know, I just feel like those are very opposite, telling someone what they need versus telling them what they want or might appease them in that moment of desperation.
Not only that, but that there's a law that forces this clinics to do the ultrasound, right? It's a recent law. But they'd say, oh, you don't want to see this. Nowadays, like, it's better for you not to see it. So they put the
Yeah.
ultrasound here, so the woman cannot even see. The miracle happens when you hear the heartbeat and when you see your baby. In our clinics, we have the ultrasound right in front of them. It's a big TV.
Yeah, because your ears and eyes can pick up that truth, and it just says so much. Like, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, an ultrasound is worth 1,000 words, and a heartbeat, that sound of that heartbeat is worth 1,000 words.
They don't let you see that. They don't let you hear it. And And, as you said, Planned Parenthood, just for you to know, they have a budget of $100,000 per month per clinic on advertising.
And do you know how many clinics out of those 38 might be Planned Parenthoods? Probably
I'm not,
several.
but I do know that around the US and the world, because they're everywhere,
Yeah,
budget is 100,000 per clinic per month
per
to
month.
women to come to their clinics.
That's a
That's
big budget. That's an enormously big budget.
huge budget. Can you imagine what it's like? 100,000 per month?
It's hard for me to fathom that because I work on a very tiny budget.
Exactly.
Like I have a hard time thinking about spending. Yeah, I don't even, I can't comprehend that.
I can't. I was in awe. When I just came back from the Heartbeat International Conference in Ohio.
Okay.
That's where we get all this stats. I'm like saying, what? You know how much it costs us to save a life a day, or let's say per month? $30.
How
$1
much?
a day. $1 a day saves a life.
Oh, wow. I've heard the
So
number 3,000 before, but that was from a speaker many years ago. So I don't,
we
yeah.
really $1 a day because that's the cost of our, the pregnancy test. So if we
Okay.
can get them to come and we get the pregnancy test in our clinic, we can
Yeah.
save them. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, definitely.
If you really, really want to take into all the expenses, it's $300 a month per baby. So it's about right, $3,600 a year per one life, if you want to cover all the expenses.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. And Martha has so many stories. Like I feel like her clinics are, there's such a huge number of people who go through there, but then there's such a large number of people that don't make it there. But her clinics are so busy and the stories are amazing. I mean, both with her client stories and her team stories, like there's just so much richness and like, yeah, it's just a lot there that needs to be shared, like to see how God's working in that space. Like there's a lot of stories that need to be amplified and repeated and shared so that, what God is doing can be recorded and passed on and understood.
We see between 80 to 100 women a day in our clinics.
80 to 100 per day? And that's is that 3 locations or 4 locations? Okay.
Right.
That's
all
a
together.
lot.
COVID, we still have to make appointments. We don't have walk-ins. So it's a lot of women. As we're talking, this is the #1 county in the nation. So the numbers are so insane because as I said in this conference, somebody was saying how excited they are to have been able to save close to 500 lives. And I'm like saying, yes, 500 lives, that's amazing, 500 lives, what, in a month, in a trimester? And they're like saying, no, per year. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, why are you so in shock? And that's when I tell them, well, we get to see 80 women per day in our clinic.
So 500 is like 6 days of work.
What? Exactly. Within a week, that's how many women we see. Out of those, over 90% will choose life for their babies. That's our ratio.
Oh my goodness.
8% of the women choose not to go
somewhere
somewhere
else. I
else.
think in a place that gets less traffic, the price tag per life saved would be higher because the admin costs don't get to be spread out over as many clients.
Correct.
But when you're having, in Miami, the volume, the number of people being served is huge. And so the admin costs get spread out more and the cost per person helped or per person saved is lower because there's a higher volume of people being helped.
So actually my goal is to save, 1,000 babies, 1,000 savings, per se, which literally is 3.6 million. If you look all the expenses, because, remember that we get to see the moms afterwards as well. We give them parenting classes. So after the baby is born, they can still come back to our clinics to get Pampers or clothing, whatever it is that they need for the baby, but they need to come for parenting classes. So, our work does not stop when the baby's born. We really want to make sure that they are equipped, and to continue this sexual integrity education for that not to happen again. because that's also a big problem. You know, you have one mom and then again she gets pregnant again and it's the second child. Last it happened with me. You know, so we don't want them to fall into that again, and we give them all these classes. They have to keep on coming back and coming back and seeing us. And you know, we have moms that bring their children that they're like 12, 10 years old. You know, we still get to see them.
Yeah. Well, and definitely the goal would be to, to have a client join the pro-life support team,
Yes.
and not to stay in the
Yes.
client sphere, but to have her rather, for her to
They become a, for sure. They do.
become an
When they
advocate.
do. Yes, I mean, they go to churches and speak about what we do and speak to their friends about what we do, you know, so they bring their friends that are pregnant to our clinics, you know, or relatives.
Oh, that's good.
That's what we get to see. I mean, we've seen over 70,000 women. It's a lot of women.
70,000, and Heartbeat of Miami is seeing that number.
Yeah.
That's hard to fathom as well. That's an
Over
incredible
70,000.
number. Wow, 70,000. How long? So I don't. Is this like, I don't know how many years Heartbeat of Miami's been?
14 this year.
14. Okay.
Yes. Celebrating
I
our
feel like
14th.
I've been working with Martha for like 7 or 8, 9. I'm not sure, but for many years.
This
So
is the 14th year.
14 years. Cool.
So for 70,000 in 14th year, over 55,000 babies saved.
So 55,000 babies out of 70,000 clients.
Because remember, some of them are not pregnant. You know,
Yeah,
they
that's,
think
well, yeah. Like there's a lot of negative tests or people that decide to go a different direction. That's a
it's not
really high percent.
right. There, some of them have a not viable pregnancy either. You know, so there's many reasons why. You know, which is another thing. You might
Yeah.
not even know if the pregnancy is going to continue. You don't even know if there's a heartbeat, if it's a viable pregnancy. And still, these women are having an abortion, chemical abortions now, which are 50% of abortions nowadays are chemical abortions.
Yeah.
And it's completely unnecessary in some cases because they don't even know if that's going to be viable or not. You know, if you're going to ever have a heartbeat.
But then, yeah,
So
then they go through, instead of mourning, they're going through with guilt, thinking that
exactly.
they ended that life, not even knowing that it might have had a short lived. And
Right.
it's just hard on the women. Like the women are just simply in that, yeah, Planned Parenthood is just chewing through them, and setting them up for, well, it sounds like a third of them will end up trying to commit suicide.
Yes.
Was that suicide number of people who had an abortion, or was that people who were looking at getting an abortion?
55% will think and consider. I mean, out of the women that have had an abortion,
Okay.
65 will contemplate or have some sort of suicide intent. 65%. Between 30 and 35% will actually attempt suicide.
And those are the women who are post-abortion, post-abortive, who
Yeah,
had it.
yeah,
Yeah.
post-abortive.
Yeah. So essentially, essentially the work that Martha and her team are doing would be preventing someone from having those suicidal thoughts and those suicidal experiences, and saving those women's lives as well, obviously,
That's what
besides just the baby's life.
you save both lives. And that's exactly the message that we give. You're not only saving the baby's life, you're saving the mother's life. Because
Yeah.
she will go through these post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms, either one or all.
Yeah.
100% of the women will face it, whether it's now or whether it's between 70 or 50 years from now. When I had that radio show, I had a woman who called me. She was 90 years old. Listen to this. When we spoke about the abortion issue, and she said, I can finally die in peace.
Oh.
She had had an abortion when she was 15. 75 years with that
Wow.
guilt, that shame, and with all that trauma that she had to endure for 75 years. Because again, 90% of women who had an abortion do not know where to go to seek for help.
Yeah.
They're going to be facing all the symptoms, you know, which is shock, you kind of like denial. First is denial, nothing happened, that was nothing, you know. Then you're in shock. Then you start getting either panic attacks or nightmares. That's a fact. You're going to start getting one or the other. Those take you to isolation. You're isolated because you think that everybody knows what you did. Kind of like, with those guilt trips. That's what we call them, guilt and shame. Isolation takes you to depression, and depression takes you to suicide.
So my church has this slogan of healing the city one person at a time. And it seems like what Martha is doing and what you're doing to support Martha is definitely healing the city one person at a time in a variety of ways.
In a variety of ways, and we're very blessed. We're, in a way, I mean, there's a reason why we're in Miami. I'm Ecuadorian. I was born and raised in Ecuador. And now I am very clear as of why I needed to be in Miami. You know what I'm saying? My mom passed away when I was 24 years old. And before she passed away, she told me, you are not going to stay in Ecuador. This is not going to be your destination. You're going to move. You're going to leave. And I'm like, what? I mean, what are you talking about? God has a perfect plan for all of our lives. And we all have a purpose in life that's according to his plan, right? And the purpose is to just solve a problem. God needs us to solve problems. You can't solve a problem if you haven't experienced it or if you're equipped to, right? So as painful as it was for me, what I had to live with my daughter, I get to, honor her memory every single time. Every single time that we have a closing, I know that we have saved one more life. Every time that we make a donation, it's just a way of healing as well, It's a beautiful way of how God can allow all this, not only for me to heal every single time, a little bit more and a little bit more. And of course, I know where that I'm going to see her, I know where she's at. That's a great thing about faith, that we know we're all going. But most importantly is to let people know, because I mean, a man, with all due respect, a man is never, ever going to understand what it's like to be pregnant. Therefore, it's never going to understand what it's like to have an abortion, period. You can't. Because, it's something that only women can feel, so after that, and many women have debated it, oh no, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm going to be fine. This is nothing. And then a few months later, they come back to us for help, because we do tell them, even if that's your choice, please know that we're here for you, because you're going to need help. So they come back. So at least we get to save the mom's life, in that sense.
Well, this has been a really beautiful story, and I'm just so excited to share this with other people. So I appreciate your time and for essentially taking on this idea and then making it so we can share it with others. I just think this is really exciting. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. As I said, I'm so excited that many people can implement this, in our real estate world. Saving a life one closing at a time. In any other industry, saving a life one X at a time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Change the X to whatever you do.
To a widget. Yeah, your widget that you're selling at a time.
One insurance at a time, one tire at a time, one ice cream at a time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just like donating just a portion. I mean, as I already told you, $1 a day makes a huge, huge difference to us. Huge.
Yeah.
Instead of having a coffee a day, just donate. Just donate $1 and you'll be part of this huge impact in society.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cristina. I just really appreciate your time and your story. And so thank you so much for being on this podcast.